For the actual sitting, remember that unlike a psychic reading, usually the client is asking the psychic about questions. They have questions about their life. And then what the psychic does is he or she asks the question themselves to spirit, and then they come back with an answer. So in this particular case, since you're doing a mediumship reading versus a psychic reading, you're not focusing on their love life or their job prospects or their past, present, and future. Instead, you are sitting in your power, in your silence, and you're asking for not specific, but spirit loved ones of the sitter to come through, specifically those that are recognized with the evidence that you are able to bring forth. So that's the focus of what you're trying to do. There is a little bit of crossover, however. And what happens is some spirits, to give evidence of themselves, they will give proof that they are intelligent and looking in on their loved ones. So sometimes a spirit might come through and say, this is your dead Uncle Johnny, and on your father's side, and he finds the color yellow that you painted your bathroom last month quite hideous. So it happens. So this is not quite the same as giving information from a psychic level of what the client's been up to. Instead, it's what the spirit is seeing going on in the client or the sitter's life. So there's a slight difference there. Also, before the reading actually begins, it's important to tell the sitter not to speak during the session. Just to be quiet and let the medium, that's you, do the talking. So it's going to be your job to do most of the talking. If for some reason you need a little bit of confirmation in the middle of the sitting, just to see if you're on track, tell the client or the sitter to just give you yes, no, or I don't know. Tell them please to not give any anecdotal information or long stories. That's going to be for later. So speaking of later, the very last part is what I call the confirmation or the concluding notes. And I almost forgot to mention, let me back up a little, in the sitting portion, do come up with a time limitation if you can, and try to stick with it. I think the longest one I've ever done was 55 minutes. It was meant to be an hour long. Most of the time, the readings I've done are 30 minutes to 40 minutes long. So just try to stick to a time limit if you can. So speaking of time limit, let's go into the confirmation or concluding notes. I like to set 2 alarms on my phone for the reading. The first alarm, when it goes off, it lets me know that it's question and answer time. So this is when the sitter has questions maybe they want to ask of spirit and receive answers. It's also a great time for confirmation notes. So this is the time when you may have in the middle of the reading mentioned something very, very important, and the sitter is like, I can hardly wait. Oh, wow, he really touched on something. It's like, okay, wait till the end. And the reason for that is if they spill all the beans in the middle of the reading, they may end up sharing way too much information, and that in turn can contaminate the information that you are trying to bring through, and then you're not sure if the information you're bringing through is now because you know something about it and you are subconsciously formulating it, or if it's genuine. So again, at the confirmation or conclusion, after the first alarm, go ahead and let the client spill the beans and talk about what you brought through and how you were on target and things. And then when the second alarm goes off, that is the time when I just like to wrap up everything and conclude everything. Now, during the confirmation and concluding notes, it's quite common that spirits want to get in a very last word in edgewise. I'll give an example of this. Before I felt confident to take the platform at the church, I decided to experiment with phone readings, and someone at my job recommended a friend of hers to see me over the phone, and this friend of hers was a journalist for the San Gabriel Valley. In fact, she still is. So I never talked to her. I didn't know anything about her, but we emailed and agreed to set up a time. So I called her, and her reading lasted about 45 minutes long. And boy, did a lot of different spirits come through that she was able to confirm through the evidence. However, there was one specific spirit who was really talkative, and it was her uncle, and he had lots of wonderful memories to share with Michelle. As we were finishing up the reading, I remember on the phone saying, okay, so we're going to finish the reading, and oh, Michelle, it looks like your uncle's back. He has some more stuff to tell you before we leave. The first thing he wants to tell you is he's giving you a red rose. So that to me means I love you. That's nice. The second thing he wants to share with you is Janis Joplin? No. It's not the spirit of Janis Joplin. It's something square, like an album cover or maybe a poster of her. I'm not sure, but that's what he's leaving with you. When it was time to confirm everything, the first thing that Michelle told me was, as a matter of fact, I'm in the middle of reading a biography. It's a book about Janis Joplin. So after you finally disconnect the phone call, I highly recommend that you zip up your aura and ground yourself, perhaps by taking a walk outside, socially distancing with a mask, of course, or maybe doing some light exercise, or maybe eating something. And hey, during this lockdown, eating something is easy to do, so don't overdo the eating something, okay? And most of all, please remember to give thanks to your guides, because they were the ones that helped you through this. Give thanks to the recipients' guides for showing up, because no one likes an empty auditorium. Also giving thanks to the recipients' loved ones in spirit for showing. And finally, of course, please give thanks to the God of your own understanding. So with that, I leave you with blessings from Spirit. I hope and pray that this COVID-19 pandemic will end and that we will be able to meet again at the church. Until then, please take care and stay healthy.